How y'all doing there? Welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania once again. Welcome to the channel. And here you are on the Night Owl edition of Stray Voltage. Welcome back, folks, wherever you're at around the world, whatever that might be. If that happens to be here in the U.S. somewhere, I don't know, say Pennsylvania, out on the West Coast, out in Hawaii, Alaska, anywhere, Guam for that matter, Marshall Islands. Puerto Rico, any U.S. dependency and or territory or state, welcome from all over the United States. Welcome to our friends to the north, the Great White North, Canada. Ooh, can I say that? Is that racist to say the Great White North? Ladies and gentlemen, if you find yourself in the United Kingdom, somewhere in Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, the Isle of Man, Jersey, Guernsey, or England, welcome. Welcome to everybody in Africa. Thank you so much for tuning in from Uganda, from Liberia, from Botswana, from South Africa. Good evening, South Africa. Hainand. And how is everybody doing? Welcome to folks out there in Asia, where it's already another day, in Japan, New Zealand, Oz, also known as Australia. Welcome, folks. Welcome. Somebody needs smokes, Robert. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Robert, that you need smokes. That's unfortunate, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. Guess what? I have set up a Zoom session, if you guys are okay with that. So after I do my introductions here, what I'll do is I'll go in and we'll get started with a Zoom session. And let me just check and double, because I can't hear my microphone unless I listen to the channel. So I want to make sure that this thing is not crapping out on me again. Sorry about that, folks. My mobile is not always. Hello, gentlemen inflatables. Thank you for checking in. Let's see what we got. Oh, that sounds good. All right, excellent. Sounds good from my end. Excellent. Okay, folks, let's see. I'll go ahead and put a few things up. First off, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public service announcement. So before we get to who's in the chat, before we talk about any additional news or we discuss all the points that President Cyril Ramaphosa talked about in his address to the nation a short while ago, I must put out a public service announcement. This is critically important, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize to folks around the world, but this is South Africa specific. I felt it's necessary to show this to you all. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public service from Indaba Africa. We want to share this with you. It's critically important information. We don't want anyone to miss out on this personal protective measures. They're absolutely necessary. So here you go. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19, these are tips for African National Congress cadres, also known as the angry, naughty children. Wash your hands regularly so you can't be linked to plundering COVID funds. Wear a mask so you can deny seeing any wrongdoing by fellow cadre. Use gloves when counting the looted COVID-19 funds so other cadre are not exposed. And finally, social distance from any corruption allegations by blaming apartheid 26 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. So those are your tips. If you're an African National Congress cadre, please follow these tips to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Remember, only you can stop the spread. Only you can prevent forest fires. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. So this was a public service announcement from Indaba Africa. I hope that you found that useful. There you go. A little bit of news there for you folks. I just thought I'd share that very quickly. Important information. We like to share important information here at Indaba Africa. We don't want to leave any cadre behind. The ANC's National Coronavirus Command Council's program of Leave No Cadre Behind in its effort to pilfer COVID-19 funds is well underway. Or it must be. Otherwise, why would Cyril be telling us about programs that must be implemented to stop the theft of government public funds? So apparently the looting is going on. And with the exception of the Western Cape, I think that the entire country is under the control of the African National Congress, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. All right, let me say hello to folks in the chat. And then, where are we at? Oh, come back here. Trying to get my chat stream going there. Right. It disappeared on me. Hang on, folks. Do it one more time. All right. There we go. That's what I needed. Okay, cool beans. All right, let me take that out of there. Anyway, welcome back. Thank you all for rejoining. We have a nice audience here tonight. Not quite approaching the mega audiences that tune in for the streams during Cyril's presentation, but let me say hello to folks. Get back in the very beginning. Gina and DW's here. Hi, I'm the early bro for the Night Owl Show. Did you notice how shocked Cyril was that the comrades were stealing? Gina's last aching nerve is hanging by a tattered thread. Indeed. Alwyn is here. Good to see you. Going to roll us all. There you go. You see, when people zaw, they put the saliva on the paper. And when people zaw, anyway, there you go. Lynn says, what a joke. Indeed. Yanni says, love the headline. What did Cyril say? Something about schools and something about lots of money. He could have just sent a WhatsApp. Indeed, he could have. You know what, Yanni? I think we should get Cyril to join the Chris Wyatt member Become a member of the channel. That way he can join the WhatsApp group, and then he can share these things with us. We'll be happy to disseminate them to the rest of the country. It won't be a problem. Happy to do it. Bradley said it would have been SMS. Yeah, you only get a few characters, so it would have worked fine. Martin Mall says, are they going to fight corruption? Yeah, that was really funny. The credibility meter was pretty low. Jacques Cronje. Hey, Jacques, I don't think I've seen you before. Then he also struggles to read the screen. Yeah, I was going to mention that. I'll mention now, but did it seem like Cyril has an upper respiratory illness? Sounded like he was congested there. Lynn says, my granddaughter and daughter might have COVID waiting. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope they don't. I hope it's just a flu or a chest cold or something like that. Bradley, it is cock having to wait. We went through this last week, had our test done on Monday, results back on Tuesday. Whew, yikes. Bradley, all you can do is stay strong, get your body as healthy as possible. That's true. And avoid unnecessary contact with people who might be carrying it. Janse van Rensberg, Borg, I suppose we have to wait for NDZ to tell us what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she didn't speak. I was surprised to hear nothing come out of NDZ tonight. 3 days for results for Bradley. Oh gosh. Okay. Let's see. Karen, hello, Karen. Good to see you there. Robert Zede. Hey, Robert. Good to see you back today. I hope that you didn't get annoyed with Goten yesterday. I didn't realize he was pestering you so much. My apologies if you felt pestered. Bradley says hello. Helen needs chocolate. Yeah, chocolate sounds like a good idea. I've actually got some, what are those things called? Kit Kat bars in my fridge. Jacques is here. Robin, welcome back, Robin. Good to see you. Willem Vicospies, just got the notification. Okay, well, actually posted this one a few hours ago. So figures, YouTube. Anyway, so what else we got here? Robert Christo. Hey, Christo, welcome. Good to see you there. General Inflatables, Helen Duplessis, Chris Bodenhorst, Rob McLaren, another roadie, Helen Duplessis, Wendy Coleman, welcome, Wendy, welcome. Ursula, yeah, Ursula, is that a new avatar or my eyes just out of focus? Anyway, Christo liked that joke, Robin liked it. Okay, let's see who else. Who else we got in the chat here? If I missed, Tanya DeVenter's here, Sharon Westfall, good to see you. Daryl Mays, welcome, Daryl. Gina DW, let's see, Tanya, good idea, yeah. Indeed. Drian is here once again. Welcome, Drian. Tertia. Hey, Tertia, haven't seen you in a few days. Glad you're well. Hakan Engman. How's it going from Amsterdam? Well, Hakan, welcome from Amsterdam. I love Amsterdam. I love the Netherlands in general. I like Keukenhof. It's pretty nice. Noordvik and Katwijk are nice. The Zuiderzee. Really enjoy it. So welcome. Morton is here. Robin. Slotstein. Hey, Slot. There you go. Shark. Oh, Shock Pretorius. And Bismarck Bear. I saw Bismarck Bear elsewhere. It is a new avatar. Okay, it's not me going crazy. I thought maybe I was imagining things. Hi, Stella Mons. Welcome. Good to see you. So glad you're here with us as well. Folks, thanks for tuning in to Chris White Africa on the Dab Africa channel. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, we are hitting over 100 folks tonight. Are you ready to hear comments on Cyril Ramaphosa, or are you here for the Zoom session? Let me go through the comments. I'll run through them. And then after we get through the comments, I'll open up the Zoom in case anybody wants to call in and get something off their mind, okay? All right. When you do call in on the Zoom session, I ask that you be ready, be talking to the point, and stick to the message. Try to keep the potty mouth stuff under control, and don't be zolling. If you can avoid, drinking alcohol, I ask, but no, you can drink if you want. Anyway, just kidding. But just be well behaved. Pete Button says hello. Good to see you there. Right. So Ramaphosa told us that since the last time he appeared before the public, 130,000 new cases have happened in South Africa. But remember, he later tells us they got this under control. Thank God they acted early. They got in control, which meant that at the time of his broadcast, 408,052 confirmed cases of coronavirus in South Africa, which makes them number one in Africa. Yay, we're number one. We're number one. Yeah, number one in Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, people leaving. What's up with that? Thought I used some underarm there. Anyway, but seriously, so number one in Africa and number 5 in the world. South Africa's economic performance may be abysmal, but its COVID-19 performance is quite impressive, ladies and gentlemen. Now tracking number 5 in the world, South Africa, under the ruling African National Congress, comes in at near the top of the most afflicted country on the planet, which is 58 million people. South Africa boasts 408,000 positive COVID-19 tests. Ramaphosa told us that the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic is surging in the Eastern Cape, in Gauteng, and in KZN. However, the number of infections are leveling off. They've apparently flattened the curve in the Western Cape, which just a few weeks ago they were attacking as the epicenter. Since the third week of June, it's begun to level off, which is good news for Western Cape. And he also told us that 50% of those who've been confirmed with the virus have now recovered. Well, that's good news, ladies and gentlemen. But we still don't know. We haven't got scientific evidence how long you get protected once you've had it. Is it lifelong? Is it for a couple of months? Some studies have shown very conflicting information. So who knows what's going on? Who knows what's going on there? But thankfully, those people recovered, so good for them. But he did, now this, you got to give South Africa credit on this, whatever the reason is, and I suspect the reason has something to do with youth. In fact, a lot of the cases are likely that people who are younger, who don't have underlying health conditions, are testing positive. Africa in general has a much younger population than the rest of the world, certainly younger than Japan or Western Europe or even the United States, which isn't nearly in as bad a shape as those other two locations with its population pyramid. But that said, and I'm going fast. I'm going very fast to get through these notes so that we can get some folks in on calls. Okay, so if I'm going too fast, my apologies. Marius says, hashtag Sakakak. Yeah, I agree. That's what it was. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are curious about the Easter eggs on the channel today, there are in fact Easter eggs behind me. And there's an electronic Easter egg for members. Can you go find the Easter egg? There is a new, in celebration of President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech to the nation tonight, I created a digital Easter egg, but only members can access it, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll leave it at that, and let's see if it shows up in the chat. Anyway, if anyone can identify the Easter eggs behind me, if I missed that you've identified it, I apologize, but I'll try to get to it and make sure. Ah, Lazan found it. There you found it. It's the Ramaphosa custom emoji. Thank you, Lazan, for showing us that. There you go. That is the custom emoji for today's stream in recognition of, thank you, Bradley found it as well. Okay, folks, have a lot of fun with that. There's a book. It's not a book, Karen. It's a license plate. It's a little mini tourist license plate. Venezia, that's correct. That's one Easter egg, but there's a couple of others. ANC must fall. Graham. Well, I like that, Graham. Survival South Africa depends on it. I think it does at this stage. Ramaposing, exactly. That's a Ramaposing cartoon clown face emoji. Enjoy that, folks. Custom emoji. Okay, 110 tuned in right now. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. So South Africa should take credit or should be take comfort in the fact that the case fatality rate is actually relatively low for South Africa, just over 5,000 fatalities. But then I don't trust any statistics the government provides, so I wonder if that's actually a true reflection of how many people actually died from the virus. Here in the United States, there's wild over-reporting and misappropriate reporting. I think in South Africa we may have some under-reporting, but anyway. But if it's true, that's impressive for whatever reasons. But this is a rather creepy statement from President Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa said, "We continue to monitor their departure from our country through death." As if people dying from COVID-19 boarded South African Airways flights and flew to Mauritius on holiday. What the heck? We continue, and I wrote this down as he said, we continue to monitor their departure from our country through death. Now that's a creepy statement, ladies and gentlemen. It's in a written speech. It's not like it just came off his tongue. It's in a written speech, so I don't know where that comes from. That's pretty creepy. He assures us that the ANC and the National Coronavirus Command Council are doing everything possible to limit the loss of life, to minimize the loss of life. And he does sound ill. It sounded to me like he had upper respiratory disease, like he was having difficulty breathing. I do hope that he's not ill, but maybe it's the flu, maybe he's just congested. I don't know, but he didn't sound very healthy. Since the end of May, the gradual easing of lockdown restrictions, most economic activity has resumed. I don't know what country Cyril Ramaphosa is living in, but clearly he's not living in South Africa. Most economic activity has resumed. What is he watching? That's not the truth. Hundreds of companies and thousands of companies have folded up their tent and they're no longer in business. People are destitute now. We have people eating grass and insects in the Eastern Cape because they can't get food. Most economic activity has resumed. A lot has, but no, not most. And then he switched over to the most important issue that people were waiting to hear about, which was education. Health and well-being of learners. I love that instead of saying students, learners. Because learners implies they actually learn. But with a matrix passing rate of 30, I'm not so sure that there are too many learners in the public education system in South Africa. There may be a lot of students, but not too many learners. And the health and well-being of learners and teachers is paramount. Well, I hope so. That's good. A lasting impact with delays on an entire generation of students. That's how he described this crisis, that it would create a lasting impact with delays on an entire generation of students. Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. I've been making that case since February when governments with their capricious governance without information overreacted and shut schools down. Now, I give them a pass on shutting schools down in the Northern Hemisphere for the balance of the academic year. But I don't give them a pass on their behavior now. Children will get illnesses. People will get sick simply by going to school. There will be traffic accidents in which school buses or combis or other modes of transportation get in accidents and children die. This happens, folks, around the world on a daily basis. You cannot protect everyone from everything all the time. And what they're doing by keeping children out of school is dumbing them down and not educating them. An entire generation of students are not being educated properly. Not that they were necessarily being educated all that well to begin with, but the point is they're missing out on education. This is not healthy for society. Not healthy for society. It's one of the problems with the African National Congress is they had two generations of largely illiterate members, angry illiterate members, who were upset because they went on strike in the Soweto uprisings and before that, and so they never went to school. That was their form of protest and are useless to society when it comes to intellectual thought and capacity. And of course, many of them become members of parliament under the African National Congress, but that's a whole other story, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in. Chris White Africa, you're listening to right now. I'm giving you an update on comments from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Then we're going to take some calls on Chris White Africa. So he said that grades 7 and 12, giving us a recap, return to school in June, and then on the 6th of July, grades 6 and 11 also return. And he said that many across South Africa, across South African society, groups, organizations, without mentioning teacher unions by name, have been demanding that schools be closed. He said there's a lot of pressure, and this is a true statement. He's absolutely right about that. He said it's difficult to find a consensus on the best approach. Well, that's true, but it's not your job to find a consensus on the best approach. Consensus is for the African Union. Leadership is for political figures. You are the president, and you have this unelected, unaccountable, undemocratic organization known as the National Coronavirus Command Council, which has apparently unlimited authority, just to, with the whiff of a pen, the stroke of a pen, the whiff of a breath, can make whole cloth law out of nothing without passing legislation. So why do you need consensus? You do not need consensus. You simply need to make the best decision. And that takes political courage, which clearly lacks the ANC. Notice when they talk about this topic of education, he refers to the entire world. It's a challenge for the whole world. And we're listening to the World Health Organization. Well, you and almost nobody else, they've been discredited beyond belief. Dr. Tedros is in the bag for Beijing. We know this. So interesting to see Ramaphosa talk about how everyone else is challenged by this, and it's difficult to reach consensus. Your job is not to reach consensus, Cyril Ramaphosa. Your job is to make the best decisions. Take those decisions for the citizens of your country, all 58 million of them, and the illegals who are there. That's your job. That is your job. Your job is not to reach consensus. This is not a coffee club. It's not the Algonquin Book Club. It's not the African Union plenary session. This is the government of South Africa. Now, you should be consulting with Parliament, which we haven't seen you do yet in this crisis, but that's a different topic. Anyway, your job is to make decisions, not reach consensus. Consensus is nonsense. George Bush did have consensus to do the surge in Iraq, but he was right, and it worked. Unpopular, but effective. His job was to be effective. He may not have been effective in many things, but he was definitely effective at that. So, he said, consistent with the advice of the World Health Organization. And that's about the time I stopped listening, because I just lost all interest right there, because his credibility went right out the window with Dr. Tedros. All public schools will be canceled for 4 weeks. What? Schools canceled again in South Africa? Come on. Except grade 12, which will take just a 1 week break from July. The break for schools will be the 24th of July to the 24th of August for all students, except grade 12, which will have a 1 week break and return to school on the 4th of August. Grade 7 will return 2 weeks, after 2 weeks on the 10th of August. So all school is out except. Well, thank you so much for the confusing situation. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for playing Ramaphosa. We're very happy to have you on there. Got any more of those little icons? Somebody stick one of those up there real quick. Those custom icons. Right. What else here from Sir Ramaphosa? He said, oh, yeah, this was entertaining. This was, hi, Erica, welcome. This was highly entertaining, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need to watch the Big Bang Theory repeats tonight, because I've already got my comedy for the day. So Ramaphosa said that he started by accusing non-governmental organizations of stealing food parcels and being involved in malfeasance. But the reality is he's talking about the ANC cadre. He just didn't call them out. He said that mentioned corruption, diversion of food parcels by ANC elected members of parliament, local ward councilors stealing food parcels. Yeah, that's right. Didn't mention them by name. Made it act as if everybody except the ANC is complicit. No mention of ANC cadre whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. You got to love that. You got to love that. Right. Moving on from that. But the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is that the government of Cyril Ramaphosa has put in place several measures to ensure that corruption will not take place. So rest assured that the coronavirus funds, nothing is happening. They're all there. Hang on. So for instance, the Treasury is involved to ensure that fairness, transparency, and cost effectiveness are key components of tender awards. Really? Then you're suspending BEE? Because if you are ensuring that fairness, transparency, and cost effectiveness are part of the calculation for awarding government contracts under COVID-19, then clearly broad-based black economic empowerment cannot play a role there. Not at all. You must rescind this racist legislation if you wish to achieve this. Clearly, they will not do that. So we know that Cyril's talking out the bottom of his bum. Yes. So he says that they've investigated 800 companies accused of excessive pricing. Really? How many illicit tobacco producers have they investigated? How many illicit tobacco distributors have they arrested? No, I'm not talking about mom and pop coming across the border from Zimbabwe with a boot full of cigarettes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people producing them, the ones distributing through criminal syndicates and robbing the state of billions of rand of excise tax and VAT. That's what I'm talking about. How many of those people investigated? 0. Shocker, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute shocker. Yeah, Garrett's saying, be quiet. That's the only smokes we have. I'm with you, but I'm concerned about folks like tobacco farmers in South Africa, the 175, 181 commercial farmers, the 155 small-scale farmers who are, by the way, black. Ooh, shocker. Yeah, which is not paying attention to them. And 28 cases have been prosecuted or settled against companies with 60 million rand. Where'd that 60 million rand go, ladies and gentlemen? Was that applied to COVID-19? Did it go into Latuli House? Where'd that 60 million rand go? That wasn't shared with us. So the Special Investigative Unit has been tasked to immediately investigate procurement in all state institutions. And rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, that Cyril will be following up every 6 weeks. In the midst of a global pandemic in which they're changing the rules every other week, he'll be checking up on these fraud investigations every 6 weeks. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel so comfortable about that. Thank gosh. Wow. You know what? I'm thinking that if Sleepy Joe doesn't win here in America, maybe we can send him over and help Cyril out. I think even Sleepy Joe's understanding of governance would improve what's going on with the ANC. Sleepy Joe Biden. He's going to ensure that no theft, no mismanagement of public funds. I don't know where Cyril's been for 26 years, but that is the entire history of the African National Congress since at least 1997, probably since 94. He claims that people being investigated. Really? So the arms deal in Kandla, Oilgate, Travelgate, shall I continue? Yeah, where are the convictions for those things? No, you're right. We don't have time for that. We have to prosecute a woman who is in shock and distraught because she called someone an awful name. And so we make her a felon and imprison her as a serious criminal while allowing rapists, murderers, people who rape toddlers, people who intentionally infect others with HIV to wander the streets of South Africa, home invaders, plasmord, murders on the farms. But we will investigate this. This is important. We will see. He is giving people credit. He did say some nice things. Leaders have to convey confidence to the public, and that's one thing that Cyril did. He did say that that people have changed their behavior and maintained social distance. A very stark contrast to last week when he chastised South Africans and blamed South Africans for the spread of the virus. Well, people are complicit in the spread of it, but he intentionally attacked them and took no blame for his government's policies. Yeah. But good news is Cyril is still convinced we can overcome this, ladies and gentlemen. So isn't that good? And finally, we mourn the death. I mentioned this yesterday. I didn't say it in this light. So this is a little less fair than I was yesterday. But the final member of the Rivonia trial who stood shoulder to shoulder with Nelson Mandela when they were charged with terrorism and convicted of terrorism. Why? Because they were terrorists. But the final member, that Mlangeni, passed away at the age of 95 yesterday. And I mentioned that on my stream yesterday and paid respect to him. But I'm going to point out that we are now having a Category 1 funeral in South Africa with the flags at half-mast for a convicted terrorist. Well, the old guard of the liberation struggle are dying off rapidly, folks, and will be gone within the next decade for the most part. So will we see this effort still to blame the apartheid for what happened? We shall see. Anyway, let me catch up in the chat. There you go. Those are the comments from Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's see what you guys have got to say about it, and then we'll look at a call-in. Wow, folks, 144 folks tuned in. Thank you so much for that. Let's get back to where we're at here. Let me see. So, no fair send chocolate. New avatar. She said that. Okay, what's up with the... Oh, that's it. Okay. Hello, Marius. The duck next to the mug. Correct, Rian. There's a duck. It's a Bavaria duck. This is from the Hofbräu house in Munich. The little Hofbräu up on the top of his head there. You see it right there. There you go. Hofbräu house. Yep. That's one more. Yep. There you go. You guys are finding the Easter eggs. Well done. Well done. Did you have a shower? I did not, Helen. Not since the last time I was on. Kumamoto Bear is cute. Thank you. Kick-ass bubblegum. I love that name. Kick-ass bubblegum. Yeah, the Kumamoto Bear. I picked that up when I was at the Rugby World Cup, and this is a Rugby World Cup top for those who are curious. Helen says we do very best to the right, the top of every list. Gareth, have you seen the Co-Vibe org? No, they're heading. No, I haven't seen that. All right, you guys found the electronic Easter egg. Well done. Cyril's a clown. You're going to have to start taking goodies off your shelf soon. I just removed them around, Helen. That's all. We changed them around a lot. Okay. Variable Vision says that Cyril's choking on his lies. Yeah, most of Mauritius 10 deaths were ships, crew, and tourists. That makes sense, Morton. Absolutely the case. Gina DW, not ill. He was squeezing tighter, took his breath away. Heiner says he's just a little stressed. And Kozazani Dalamizum was talking in his ear. Good point. Robert Tomlinson says there are still no mentions on false positives, false negatives. Pretty sure this is bearing. It does, absolutely. Or the fact that 80% of people aren't even tested who have it. So something like that. What are the figures? Cyril's living in La La Land. He is indeed. Did CR mention anything about the fact that the lethality of the virus does not change regardless of how much hot air? Yeah, that's good. Have you seen peaceful protests in Cape Town? I have not seen them, Robert. I saw a video of Big Daddy Liberty out for a protest, but I haven't seen anything else. Whole lot of cock. Yep. Most concerning is the statements about economic recovery using any means at our disposal. Yeah, that was pretty scary. Sean says, Cyril the Iron Lung Ramaphosa. Yeah, that's a good one. Elizabeth, this is all a ploy to keep us off the fact they want to put up 5G towers in your property without compensation. It's a ploy for a lot of things. That might be one thing, but it's not just that. Mary Duplessis says, Tedros, the first grade teacher, not knocking teachers. I'm very much knocking Tedros. Yeah, well, he's a physician, supposedly, and he's the one that covered up outbreaks of cholera in his country several times. And there's Erica. Donna Tango 63 is here. Robert Thomas says, I threw the towel when Sierra said there are two important issues that need addressing. What a waste of oxygen. Yeah. Hate the COVID-19. Disney World had to reopen. Disney is vital to the U.S. economy. Well, it's important to the U.S. economy, Brett. I'm a Disney shareholder and have been for 30 years, even though I'm very angry with the company. But I don't think it's important in the U.S. I think it makes a difference. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Corlia VDM says, like the page. Well, thank you so much. Please do that. I'm going to plug in my earpiece. And, this is a chance for people to vent if they want. I'll need to put the link up, so give me just a moment to put the link up, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'll take calls if anybody wants to call in. So hang on here. Here we go. Oh, that's not the one. It's the wrong thing I want there. Okay, that's what I want. Okay, copy the link. Okay, get off there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send you the link. Anybody that wants to call in, I'll take one at a time. We'll see how it goes, and maybe I'll take more as we go along. But that is the link to call into Zoom. If you want to call in, please feel free. Robert ZA says, what are you paying? You must not be talking to me. Oh, it's Gareth talking to Robert. Sorry. Okay. How do these restrictions help us? Well, Kyron, they don't help you. It's all a plot, to say the least. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if anyone wants to call in, let me call up my... Now I'm going to have to take that off of full screen. This isn't going to work right unless I do this, so give me a moment here, folks. Exit full screen. There we go. Okay, good. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let me move that over here. All right. Now, okay, so I have opened up the room. Anybody that wants to call in can call in. Okay, and you guys can see who's there. Right now, it's just me. Anyone want to call in? Oh, Robert's selling Rothmans for 360 Rand a carton. 360 Rand a carton, that's a deal. That doesn't sound right. Oh, there's somebody calling in. It's Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. Let's get Lynn in there real quick. Okay. All right, let's see if we get, here comes Lynn. Okay. Hey, Lynn. Oh, still connecting our audio. All right, folks. Oh, still connecting our mic. Looted funds will be looked at every 6 weeks. Yeah, I thought that was comical. Yeah, we're going to wait every 6 weeks to loot funds. When the money's long gone, sitting in a bank account somewhere. Lynn, your audio is not connecting for some reason. I'm not sure why. Is your microphone turned off? And that's the cheapest brand, says Robin. Wow. Rothmans? Is that a carton or a pack? Ooh. Lynn, you dyed your hair. It looks awesome. But we can't hear you there. Your mic is off. I'll do the ask to unmute. So, all right. Hopefully,
There we go.
there we go. There's Lynn. Hey,
There
Lynn.
we go.
All right.
Cold.
How are you?
Cold.
You're cold. Is that why your hair is purple? You're cold?
Well, it's supposed to be pink,
Okay.
turquoise, and purple.
Okay. So your hair is cold.
Yes, I was tired of looking. I was tired of looking grey.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. So are you got anything on your mind? You want to rant? You want to share? Did you watch?
Well, I've got quite a bit on my mind, but what I do want to rant about is just to bring to your awareness and everybody else's awareness. Our government clinics are a nightmare. I had to rush off to go to the Howick clinic because, as you know, Chris, I'm diabetic.
Yeah.
And they didn't dispense my diabetic medication. So I had to jump in the car and go there and try and sort it out. To cut a very long story short, I've had to move my clinic to closer, which is Balgowan. And it's a first-rate clinic. You can't compare it to Howick. You'd think Howick would be better because it's a big town, but it's not. It's just a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare to try and get medication at the moment.
Shame.
And no, it's just so that everybody else is aware who have the funds, who are on medical aid, that this is the reality we're dealing with. The government hospitals, the government clinics are not getting PPEs, are not getting medication. That's the sad reality. And I just wanted to bring it to everybody's awareness. I mean, unfortunately, my daughter has come down. I think it's cold. But just to be sure, she went for the COVID test. And my granddaughter, who's only 7, who doesn't know what a test is. So we're waiting for the reply tomorrow, hopefully. But it was wonderful. They went to Hilton Hospital and they went in a car queue and they did tests and stuff in the car.
Okay. So you didn't even have to go inside.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Well, still, it's disturbing, though. I mean, but not shocking that the supply chain is disrupted and it's not quite flowing properly. But nonetheless, it's not a reassuring thing. So. No,
it isn't, and this is why. What he said tonight is absolute. Sorry, I hope I can say this word, crap, because really, he's just thumbing his nose to us and saying, "Oh, the last time it was female femicide," and what was the other thing? In every speech he has something else to bring in, and this tonight was obviously the schools closing.
Yeah.
And also corruption.
Yeah, it
corruption is going on all the time.
It seems like he's grasping for a new thing to grab at each time just to divert people's attention. This doesn't seem at all thought out. So don't you find it interesting, Lynn, that 4 months after the crisis began, now they've decided, there might be corruption in government, and we're going to talk about corruption. I'm now going to appoint the SIU to investigate. What was the SIBU been doing for 4 months? Sitting home collecting paychecks? Come on. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, it's horrific. And I'm so pleased to see that South Africans are actually standing up and protesting, and nicely, but protesting against the restaurant industry. I mean, really.
Well, don't do that in Zimbabwe because you'll be arrested as a terrorist.
Yeah, well, I mean, with all the marching and all the motorbike protests that are going on in Cape Town on Saturday to lift the cigarette ban. I mean, I missed that. I didn't listen to him talk about cigarettes. Did he talk about cigarettes?
No, he didn't talk about alcohol. He didn't talk about cigarettes. He talked about education, corruption, and what a great job the ANC is doing. So Brett's just joined us in the chat. Welcome, Brett.
Hey, what's going on, Chris? I had some news from elsewhere in Africa. Now, the article was vague, and I'm not sure what the penalty for rape is in Liberia, but the vice president, Madam Jewel Howard Taylor, that's her name, she says the rape penalties need to be harsher, that too many people just get a slap on the wrist when they're convicted of rape, and that there's a lot of like younger girls that are being bought by older men. Basically, these older men are paying these younger girls to let them rape them. And it's pretty sick. But fortunately, finally, somebody's speaking about the rape crisis in Africa because it's gone on for far too long.
Well, it's a combination of things when you come to Liberia. It's not just rape. That's a significant problem. During the 13-year civil war, 3 out of 4 women and girls were raped at least once. Think about that, what that does to society. I mean, how you can live like that. And I lived in the aftermath of that. Now, rape was still occurring, but it wasn't at that pace. But I lived there after, 3 out of every 4 girls and women had been raped at least one time, some multiple times. But it's also a situation of sugar daddies. Girls don't have much in the way of resources or opportunity, and even underage girls linking up with folks. It was probably more prominent during the time when there were a lot of NGOs and the UN was there, but now the UN is largely gone and the NGOs are greatly reduced. We see a lot less of it. But yeah, it's a topic that needs to be discussed, and it's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, and one other thing, like with the DRC, it doesn't seem like there's that the rape crisis is still going on. And I forget the guy's name. His first name is Dennis. I mean, Mukwege, or he's a gynecologist, and he has done amazing things for the DRC. He's from the DRC, but he recently resigned from the COVID committee of the DRC because they're just doing stupid things. Like, example, their government, you get tested for the COVID, it has to go to the specific lab in Kinshasa. The country's way too big for that. Then your test results come back. And he resigned out of protest, and I don't blame him. You can't just do that and run a country effectively testing for the COVID because the country's too far spread out.
Yeah, well, it's the same situation in South Africa. There was just the one national lab where the results were set for a period of time, whereas Senegal took the time and effort to create a rapid test kit. While the efficacy wasn't as good, it at least was effective in a large measure, and they were able to test people almost instantly. That was their approach, and so they've been much more effective. Lynn, did you want to jump in there? Do you have something, or did I miss something there?
I was just commenting on what he said. It's just terrific. I mean, the rape.
Oh, the rape, yeah.
Just terrific.
Now there was. Sorry, Lynn. I'm sorry. I thought you finished. Good.
And they don't have enough test kits. They don't have, what is it called?
The reaction.
Rape kit.
The reaction.
They don't have rape kits.
Oh, for rape kits you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Rape kits.
No, a lot of countries don't even have them. Don't even have a protocol for addressing rape like we have in many countries. There was something I want to say here. Robert Tomlinson said that everything is going great for the ANC government, assuming that everyone is suffering from Alzheimer's, dementia, and amnesia. Good point.
Don't forget diabetes.
No, but they're being facetious. He's being facetious about, yeah. So.
Oh no, but it's just total. I do this. I seem to do this after every speech he makes. He just annoys me. I can't explain. You know how I'm feeling. I mean, I think I'm feeling like the majority of South Africa. We're just so frustrated. And I mean, I'm talking about Big Daddy Liberty now. I mean, I watched him with his march, and it's for restaurants, and that's the kind of thing that we need to do. You can watch, but you don't have to, as they do in America, break things, burn things, explode things, shoot policemen in the eye with a laser. We don't have to do all these things. We can do it peacefully.
No, it's absolutely crazy. Let me jump in real quick there. Divine Dick is the call name or handle for someone on here. He says, why is this in my recommended? I don't know, Divine Dick. What are your interests? This is a topic of discussion about Africa, but tonight specifically we're talking about President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech in South Africa. I'm Chris White, retired U.S. Army colonel. Spent much of the last 20 years in Africa, doing a Zoom call-in session now. If you'd like to call in and discuss this. I don't know where you're from. I don't know what I recommend on your page. But or was that a snarky way of saying that this isn't content you want to watch? Or maybe it was a genuine question. I know, but that's what this channel is about. We focus on Africa and geostrategic issues. But right now we're talking to some call-in guests on the channel. I give people an opportunity to share their thoughts about what Ramaphosa had to say and or rant if they'd like. So, Dick, if you'd like to call in, you're welcome to. The link was up there a few moments ago. I'll put it back up. Brett, what's on your mind beyond that?
Okay. Beyond that, what I was going to talk about is the guy that headed the head of the COVID response team. Now, this was not his fault, but he did run a clinic, and this one guy who was 30 years old posed as a fake pastor to get access to the clinic, and he came and raped 14 boys. Fortunately, the government caught him, but that just shows you that the rape crisis in the DRC has not gotten any better. Fortunately, former rape victims, male and female, are now speaking out about what's going on, and hopefully this gets the international community's attention. But I honestly don't know how good it's going to do. The DRC has a lot of UN aid. They have a lot of UN peacekeepers. The UN has been there for decades, and nothing seems to be getting better over there.
Christo, welcome into the chat.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm brilliant. Your first time calling in. It's a pleasure having you.
Yes, I'm normally a lurker, so I'll sort of sit and sort of just observe. Thanks for this opportunity to talk to you face to face, virtually, but face to face. I think just, I've got something in terms of specifically South Africa. People probably don't know where I'm from, but from my accent, they'll know I'm from South Africa, but I don't work.
No. I would have sworn you're from Tennessee.
So from my side, my family's in South Africa. My wife's been stuck in South Africa due to COVID. So I've been sort of just having family members in South Africa, totally isolated. So from a Saudi perspective, where I'm actually working, obviously, as you know, you cannot really say much in terms of social media. Everything's monitored. It's an absolute monarchy, so it is very, very restrictive. But what I want to tell the guys that's actually listening, and I think people need to be aware of what's happening in South Africa specifically. If you look at Cyril Ramaphosa's sort of speech, and basically every speech is the same thing, where he's just doing lip service, specifically for people that is still thinking that COVID is really that bad. It's actually just hysteria. And there was a talk on Germ Warfare's show that was called Cyril Lied About COVID, which is actually something that people, I actually encourage everybody to go and watch that show. It was a live stream, I think it was this morning, where they actually talk about the pandemic, and a guy with the name of Nick Hudson. He's in South Africa and he works for Panda. Panda sounds a bit funny, but basically it's pandemics, data and analytics. They actually predicted the statistics. So they predicted the death rate, so the COVID infections, the death rates for South Africa, and they publicized that in March already. They actually spoke to the National Command Center and made them aware of these predictions, and that their predictions of 300,000 people dying is totally incorrect, and it's the actual science behind it is incorrect. They actually made a very, very clear statement in terms of, let's say, for instance, the Western Cape, exactly what date, how many people would have died from COVID. And that prediction was publicized in March. They were one day out with their prediction in terms of the figures. So they predicted on the 12th of June, it will peak, and it peaked on the 13th of July. So I would trust those guys' figures a lot better than the government sort of advisors. But just to come to the point, if you look at Cyril Ramaphosa and the government even up to now, there's something a lot more sinister behind this. So they were made aware of the actual predictions. They are aware of the predictions now. They are aware of how serious this is or how not serious this is. So I just, from my perspective, people need to go and watch that. For me specifically, I've got grandchildren that's been prevented from going to school in South Africa, and I've got grandchildren in Saudi. I might not look like I'm a grandfather.
I was going to
No,
say,
you don't.
Christo,
No, you don't.
I was about to say, listen, I discourage teen pregnancy. What the hell have you been up to?
Well, I was one of those statistics. So my wife and I got married very young, just as I left school. She was still at school. But anyways, to come to the point, my grandchildren, the ones in Saudi is, I've got two boys in Saudi and two boys in South Africa. So in terms of schools in Saudi, they're a little bit more better rigged in terms of distance education because it's British schools, it's American schools, it's American syllabus. So they are more geared. But the ones in South Africa, my daughter's two boys, they've been getting lessons via electronic media, either via the WhatsApp or Zoom sessions, some recordings, but they were allowed to go to school. And being isolated at home for so long, I saw the joy in my grandson's face the first day he was allowed to go back to school. And tonight's speech was actually, for me, was almost heartbreaking. It is sad to see how the kids has to psychologically adjust to having masks, having social distancing at school. Mm-hmm. And if you look at this whole stream that Nick Hudson and Germ Warfare did this morning, kids are actually more at danger. So there's a higher percentage of kids dying traveling to school than dying from COVID. So in terms of the risk.
Okay, yeah, let me clarify that, because the way it came out, of course, English is not your first language. So, but way it came out is it came out as if you were saying that kids are more at risk by going to school. That's not what you were saying. What you're saying is that there's a greater risk to kids going to school than contracting COVID-19 in school. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
purely by going by car or by bus or by taxi. The death rate of kids dying because of traveling to school is higher than dying of COVID. So, I've spoken to my grandson. He's in grade 2, so he's 7 years old. I've spoken to him, and you can see the desperation in his eyes in terms of just talking to friends and hearing all this hysteria about, COVID is so deadly, just the mass hysteria that's been created. And I think psychology-wise, it's not a good thing.
No, it's not. It's
no, but I'm gonna interject on that. COVID is deadly for a certain amount of people. Now, COVID is typically not deadly for kids, but kids can contract the COVID and they can give it to other people. Like, I'm going to give you an example. My dad had triple bypass surgery about 10, 12 years ago. My mom's had some underlying health issues as well. They don't have the COVID. They've used every precaution imaginable. I don't have it either. But I have a first cousin who I hadn't seen in a while, but I contacted him through social media here and there. But he caught the COVID. He's fine now. If you get the COVID with underlying health conditions, like if my parents get it, the doctors are going to put them in intensive care. And they will probably die if they get the COVID. That's the issues there. I think the mask requirements need to be intact. But like, prime example, I know I'm American, not African, obviously. You can tell by my accent. But Disney World, I was for Disney World reopening because Disney's vital to the economy. And certain aspects of South Africa, like tobacco and the alcohol industry, not picking on you guys, but many South Africans drink and smoke. There has to be some openings for that to get the economy back going, because when the lockdown hit, South Africa was already in junk status, and there has to be some sort of reopening. The question is to find the balance, but go ahead.
No, well, just really quickly there. So that's why I interjected, because I don't think that's what Christo's point. He wasn't getting on the point. And I've been consistent on this channel. The virus is highly infectious. It's dangerous, particularly if you have comorbidity, you have an underlying health condition, it compromises your immune system. But that's normal for a lot of different afflictions. That's not the question. And kids can get it, but not many are heavily impacted. That's not even the issue. The issue is that more kids die from other things than COVID-19. More kids get sick from other things like influenza and things like that than COVID-19. And that is not being paid attention to. So that I mentioned that on the stream earlier. I was talking about, I said more kids, I don't have the figures because the government doesn't share it, but I guarantee more kids.
No, I know that transport. Kids can, or I'm not talking about dying from it, but kids can become carriers of it.
Of course.
And if they're around,
we can all become carriers,
grandparents, if
we
they're
can
around
open
their
doors.
grandparents, if schools are opening, kids are around their grandparents often, because sometimes both parents work and the grandparents are more involved in raising their kids because the grandparents are retired. That's what concerns me, is what I'm saying.
No, it's a valid concern. And that's why from the outset, from the very beginning of this thing, I said you must protect the vulnerable, those most at risk. But instead of protecting them, here in Pennsylvania, we shuttered people who had COVID-19 off into retirement facilities and afflicted the elderly and caused 45% of the fatalities here in the first 3 months because the idiots in the state who ran the public health system directed people who were tested positive into aged homes and got all those people sick and died.
And that's ate up with the dumbass. Sorry, but that's just ate up with the dumbass.
It is. Well, you can tell Brett's from the South. He's talking about the COVID. Next he'll be talking about the Twitter and the YouTube. No, I'm just giving you a hard time, Brett. Hey, Lynn, you got what about you got some munchkins, grandkids or something out there in school?
No, I've got a 7-year-old granddaughter.
Okay, and what's her thoughts?
So, she's so confused. You know,
Well,
she's
no different than the rest of us.
But for kids, I think it's a lot harder to, especially when they're young like she is, to understand the social distancing. You can't rush up to your friends and give them a hug, you know. And I think it's pretty hard on little kids because they don't get it. I mean, she was so excited to go back to school, so excited. But now, you know, with having to stay home, and now with the further shutdown, you see, she's in a pre-primary, so I don't know. Cyril Ramaphosa said public schools, so I don't know whether that'll affect her pre-primary. But I mean, also the pre-primaries and public schools and all of that have paid a lot of money to have everything cleaned and sanitized and have everything in place for them to go back. So how much more is it going to cost them to be able to do it again?
The whole thing beggars imagination, Lynn. I mean, okay, let's put this in perspective. Anthrax spores survive for years. They can survive. They're viable because they're on a protective, hard shell that protects the spores, so they can survive. You know, cattle can walk on the plains and they survive, and eventually anthrax comes out. Viruses, the RNA from viruses does not last long. They've given us conflicting information that could last on glass and metal surfaces for up to 3 weeks. Let's accept that. Worst case, the RNA from COVID-19 can survive on a surface for 3 weeks. The schools have been closed for 3 months. What did they have to clean? If they weren't in the schools were closed. This just beggars the imagination. They told us they needed a month to prepare the schools, and then they didn't prepare the schools. What were they preparing for, other than moving tables around and separating students? They certainly were told me they had to do hygiene. What hygiene do you have to do? Do you have people sneaking to school using the loo while school was closed? This is just crazy. If nobody was in the schools, they were locked up and closed for 3 months, then there's nothing that needs to be done. So it just beggars the imagination.
And one thing I'm going to add with the lockdown, and this is what is crazy for me, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm starting to wonder if the ANC government's involved in the farm murders, because supposedly they've enforced parts of the lockdown. I've seen them arrest people, black, white, colored, whoever, on the internet for violating the lockdown, but the farm murders have still increased from the lockdown. Now, somebody had to violate the lockdown to go to the farm to kill somebody. Yes. And I mean, do you think the ANC is complicit with it? I know they've been apathetic and have turned a blind eye to it. That's not an argument. But I never thought they would have been complicit. But I'm starting to think a little bit differently now.
No,
but go ahead.
I don't think that the ANC government itself is complicit in farmers. I think they're just incompetent and inept, and they're callous towards it. There are certain members of government who may be involved in it. But I would be remiss if I didn't welcome Chewbacca to the conversation. Chewbacca has joined us. Welcome, Yanni.
How's it going, guys? How's it going, Chris, Lynn, Brett, Krista? How you guys doing?
Going on?
Yeah, doing good. So, Chris, can't really contribute to the farm murder discussion and things at the moment, but here's an interesting one for you. So, I recently had to renew my firearm, or one of my firearms, and how it works in South Africa, you have to renew it 90 days before it expires. So my 100 days was roughly about 2 weeks ago, so I was doing it a little bit beforehand. But we recently had a COVID-19 positive case at the Sandton police station. So I had to go and take my firearm, I had to go and do my license stuff all there. But in all of this now, luckily, they opened up the firearms office so I could go and do the paperwork, but I couldn't pay because that side of the building, those people were still doing their 14-day lockdown and had to wait that out. So on Monday, I could go and pay, but then they couldn't take my money because they couldn't print a receipt. They couldn't print a receipt because the office that was closed for 2 weeks, they stole the printer cartridges.
Of course.
So, yeah. So, different story. But now, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is talking about farm murders and talking about all these things is if you can't even keep the printer cartridges safe in the police station, how are we keeping our people safe, So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Two things very quickly. So there's some confusion by folks. Ladies and gentlemen, what this is a Zoom call-in session. People are calling in who are subscribers and members of the channel and just casual viewers. If you'd like to call in and share your thoughts about what President Ramaphosa had to say tonight, you're welcome to do it. If you're in the conversation and you want to drop out, you're welcome to do that as well. I'll add people until it becomes unmanageable, and then I'll boot people out that were there longest. But that's the first thing. So what you're listening to right now is, yes, I'm Chris. And we have Lynn, who's grew up in Rhodesia. She's a South African. She's over there. And then we have Brett, who lives in Mississippi. Apparently has a lovely statue of Patrice Lumumba in his hometown. I'm not sure why, but Brett's from down there. And then we have Christo Hoyer, who's a South African working in Saudi Arabia. And then Yanni van der Walt, who is a tech guru. He is the master Yoda when it comes to tech. And by the way, the second thing I wanted to mention, now that I've explained who everybody in this conversation is, by the way, Yanni, is Reese watching or is she listening?
No, she's went to bed.
Okay, so
it's past her bedtime already.
So it's safe. Brett, Christo, cover your ears. Listen, Yanni, dude, you look dead sexy. I just got to say that.
You're looking
Thanks,
good.
Chris. Thanks, Chris. I will
Chris, I will reiterate. I'm from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'm from Hattiesburg, and it's the capital city, Jackson, that has the mayor that honors Patrice Lumumba, and who's basically named after Patrice Lumumba. So fortunately, I don't have to live in that city at the moment. I hope I don't have to anytime in the near future because the mayor puts Patrice Lumumba on a pedestal, and Patrice was not a hero. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. No, we're just having a little fun. We got another person coming in here. So we'll see how
Thanks,
well this goes. All right. Yeah, no, but Yanni, your hair's looking good today, man.
Yeah, it's nice. Cherise did it. I get, luckily it's the joys of being married to a hairstylist. My hair can get done anytime, any place, and I don't really have to pay for it. But I suppose I do pay for it with my life. I'm married to her, so. But it's one of the perks.
Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I don't think that Yanni was implying anything untoward, or I'm just saying.
Yeah. Let's just be so.
So,
well, Yanni, you better not make your wife mad because she's got those scissors when she cuts your hair and stuff. So,
yeah. It's very true, Brett. I will keep that in mind.
S.J. Wheeler's. Sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
I was just saying, Yanni, you're looking very good, very good.
Oh, thank you very much, Lynn. I appreciate it.
S.J. Wheeler is trying to join the conversation, but all we see is the name. Have you got a problem with your camera or something? Let me see. Your camera's off, and so's your microphone. So you've got
the Zoom thing is very complicated.
There we go. All right, cool beans. There's S.J. Wheeler. Welcome. Now you went quiet on us.
Chris, and I'm going to ask you, and these are the South Africans in the chat as well. How easy is it to get private security guards? Because it seems like that when a crime happens, private security guards or private security companies are the first to respond, and they get there before the cops. And a lot of money is invested with wealthy families and wealthy neighborhoods to get private security guards because there's a lot of incompetency and corruption within the South African police services. I still think the average South African cop is civil, courteous, and dedicated to upholding the law. I'm not bashing the cops, just a bad underfunding and bad job by the ANC. But go ahead.
Well, I'll address that, and then I'll let everybody give their personal views. But let me just welcome S.J. Wheeler real quick. Welcome, S.J. Wheeler. Good to see you there.
How's it, dear Supreme Leader?
How's it, S.J. Wheeler?
You got it right, dear Supreme Leader. That's the tagline I'm going with. You guys do know that my ambition is to be the benign dictator of a small African country, so make sure you don't forget that, okay? But But when it comes to security companies, first off, there's 600,000 people working in the security industry in South Africa as guards and such. It's a major contributor to the economy and a major distraction as well. Having said that, it depends on how much money you have and where you live. If you live in an urban area that has access to some of the better companies, then you're going to get, if you pay top dollar. So in Hatfield, which is where the American Embassy's at, you can find security companies that will respond with armored cars and even with helicopters in some cases within 90 seconds, not the helicopter 90 seconds, but armored cars within 90 seconds of your alarm going off or you pushing a panic button or something like that. But you're paying a lot of money for that. Now, if you live in another part of town, you may have a security company, you have an alarm on your gate, on your house, your windows, and they'll respond when they break in. It might take a few minutes. It just depends. So it's all over the place. But people in the rural areas are pretty much, they have mobile patrols working with groups, but you're out there. It's tough to provide security when farms are 3 or 4 kilometers apart, houses and security and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's all over the place. Now, what I would say about the South African police service is the following. Whether they're competent or not does matter, but the reality is there aren't enough of them. There's 175,000 or so cops, but that includes all the overhead. That includes mechanics to keep vehicles operating, admin clerks, people who mop the floors. So when you narrow it down, you've got less than 150,000 actual police, about 134,000 actual police officers. When you take supervisors out of the mix, you're down to about 120,000, right? And when you take that number and you figure that one third of the force is on, 1/3 is, off, and 1/3 is coming on shift, you only have 1/3 of that. So you have about 40,000 police officers to police a country the size of South Africa with 58 million people. It's a joke. And so the reason there's security guards is because they can't cover the whole country. So anybody want to jump in real quick? And then if anybody needs to leave, I got 2 people trying to get in.
Well, I just want to say that the private security companies do an excellent job. They respond obviously faster than the police. And they're there for you, regardless. We have this thing called, I've gone blank. Let somebody else talk, I'll remember.
Okay. Christo.
Yeah, just from Brett, from my perspective, I would not feel safe being in Saudi Arabia with my family in South Africa if I didn't have private security, armed response, being on call 24/7. I'm fortunate to be able to afford that. I've had a few occasions where my neighbors had attempted car hijacking and their son was shot. And before the guys were actually able to get away, the armed response was already there. Before the police got there about half an hour later, the armed response was there within 2 minutes. So they actually caught the guys by the East Rand Mall. So it's a mall about 10 k's away from where we stay. So they are really a necessity. You cannot have let's say, peace of mind if you don't have armed response. I've got laser beams in my house in South Africa. I've got electric fencing. I've got armed response, and I've got many other things. So it is. Some people will see that as paranoia, but honestly, anybody that is from South Africa will know what that is about.
All right. So, hey,
Sorry, technical.
Go ahead and share us.
Sorry, I had some technical issues.
That's all right. We get them occasionally, especially with Zoom, although it's supposed to be so wonderful. So, where are you at, SJ Wheeler? Where are you calling in from?
I'm from Cape Town, Kommetjie, to be more precise.
Is that where you're actually at, though, that area?
Very nice.
That's the area that I'm in, where all the surfers get arrested.
Yeah, well, they're dangerous criminals. You got to keep them off the beaches.
Absolutely, it's ridiculous. Look, listen. After the debates tonight, I mean, all of us South Africans could drive through to McDonald's because he's got shares in there. And as usual, you get a giant nothing burger.
Nothing burger. Gotcha.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, okay, now we got moved around the chat there. So, Lynn, what about security in your area? You guys got to rely on private security firms? Are the police quick? Are they slow?
Well, the police are obviously slow, but we have, I want to call it a commando-like thing, where if you go into a specific area, there's a camera, and they trace you from that camera to another camera. So if you go into an area like a rural, because I'm obviously in a rural town, that's how they control it. And a company called Magma does an absolutely brilliant job, especially with farmers in the area. In Howick itself, it's the brilliant security companies that actually go out of their way to support the community, even though they don't get paid. I mean, it's just brilliant. The private companies, the private security in the area that I'm in is absolutely amazing. And the police, I mean, we now have the local police station closed again for coronavirus. This is the second time it's been closed. So yeah, I mean, what do we do if the shit hits the fan for a farmer?
That's a good point. So now let me shift the focus real quick, guys. So Christo's in Saudi Arabia, but he has security concerns because he has family back in South Africa. So that's germane for him. But Brett and I are on the other side of the Atlantic, where if you're listening to the world news, you would think the entire country was up in flames and black people are beating white people in the streets everywhere. That's what you believe if you follow the news. I suspect that where Brett is living, things are not quite as chaotic, but I'll share my thoughts about where I'm at security. I don't leave my doors unlocked, but I haven't done that since I lived on a farm as a kid, even though I could have done it. It was just wise. But I'll tell you that I have no fear when I walk around the streets in the villages and towns here, including the capital of Pennsylvania. It's perfectly safe. I don't worry about carjackings, although I'm alert, more alert than most Americans because I'm a counterintelligence guy and counterterrorism measures. I'm accustomed to it. But most of that's just me being prudent and not even necessary. Not like when I'm in South Africa when the spidey sense in the back of my neck is always up. When I pull in, what's that? Is it Robbie Vessels or who sings that song? The Macarena Mambo, and he pulls in for his favorite parking place for a carjack. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's how when I'm looking for parking space in South Africa, I'm thinking about what about a carjack? What about getting out of here in emergency? All that stuff. Anyway, but I don't. The only thing I worry about in the States when I go to a place is I worry about putting my car far enough away from the lazy turds who leave their shopping trolleys all over the place and bang into my car. But fortunately, many of us in America don't have to deal with those things. So Brett's down in Mississippi. My impression is it's probably pretty safe where he's at, and it's similar to my situation. What's the word, Brett?
Yeah, it's pretty safe. I mean, like prime example, there have been people that have shot and killed police officers, but that was 3 years ago, and that hasn't happened since then where I'm from. Like prime example, my family's got deadbolts for our lights. We use the deadbolts. We have a security system for the most part. We use it, but if we forget to turn on the alarm if we're tired, we're not going to get the house broken into more than likely. And I've never had my car jacked before. I've never been a victim of a racial hate crime. My town is about 50% African American, 50% Caucasian, or about 45% African American, 45% Caucasian. Then about the other 10% are Asian and Hispanic. 5% Asian, 5% Hispanic. And I've never been a victim of a racial hate crime. And my family owns firearms, but we've never had to use it defending the house. No offense, but it's much safer in America than it is South Africa. And we're having a lot of divisiveness right now, but my country's not about to come apart. I mean, Chris and I are not going to go get our asses kicked for having different opinions, more than likely, walking down the street, even though we're talking on this channel. So that's America's going through some stuff right now, but it's not what the media is making it out to be.
That's true. I will be getting a deer rifle soon, and it's not for elk. Hey, S.J. Wheeler, what about where you're at? You like that, Yanni? What about down that part of the country where you're at? You're obviously not in Cacheta out in the Cape Flats, or are you on the Cape Flats?
No. If you know where Cape Points is, I'm one of the areas on your way to Cape Points. But I did have a situation today that I had to sort out when I went to go do the shopping story. Come out the shops and there's all this commotion and stuff going on.
Okay, cool.
And there was an African man screaming at a very elderly white woman, collect money for charities and stuff. So obviously no one's going to do anything about it. And I'm there and I'm quite a big, scary, intimidating looking guy apparently. So I went there to check it out, and the dog guy apparently if it's a dog, it's a far stretch to call it a dog because I've seen rats bigger than that dog. Anyway, I took him down to the pharmacy, got him sorted out, and I was like, dude, are you cool? He's cool, so no bloodshed. Yeah, that was my day today. So,
Okay, well,
yeah,
that's a little bit of excitement there. So let me ask Gandalf the Grey in his younger years, what's the security situation like where you live at there, Yanni?
So interesting though, private security companies hasn't been a huge focus for us. I would say when we didn't live in the city. So we moved, Reese and I moved from Richards Bay, which is about 200 kilometers north of Durban, to Joburg about 12 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, 12 years ago. That's when security became a real concern for us. And that's when we had to figure out, which company do we go with, that type of stuff. But something that I think has really I only really realized now is that possibly the last couple of years, you don't have security companies mixing up anymore. I don't really see that anymore. You do get one or two of the big players that do that, but I definitely feel now that certain suburbs, you have a security company that focuses on a suburb, and they do that really, really well. So you might have some suburbs that's not as good as others, but the current suburb we're living in Sunning Hill. So I've obviously mentioned that. So within Sunning Hill, which is part of the Greater Sandton area in northern of Joburg, in this area, we have a particular security company, and they are really, really good, whereby just in general, I don't even have to subscribe to them. They just look after the area. But if I do subscribe to them, I'd get certain other perks, either for my house, emergency button, whatever, but also like a little necklace thing that I can wear that if I go jogging and I don't feel good and I push that button or I'm hijacked or whatever, push that button, somebody's here. But I think it was Lynn or somebody that was saying earlier that those guys rock up within minutes, if not like a minute. The guys are here because they look after the suburb. They the only ones that's here in terms of private security. There's one or two other ones, but like I'm saying, it's the bigger brands that used to be there 20 years ago, so they still play a role. But I mean, long story short, so I think we're lucky that we're living in a suburb where we have a good security company, a private security company that I'm happy to subscribe to, but I'm also not forced to subscribe to, so if that makes sense. So
no, it does.
And it wouldn't have been, and for me in my job, not right now, but I travel quite a lot. So for me to fill up a passport within 2 years is not uncommon with, all the visas and all the nonsense that you do. So it's a bit of an additional sense of security for me that, when I'm traveling, Reese is home alone, that, at the push of a button, she can get help.
Yeah, no, that's got to be very reassuring.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on to that because I'm a security guard here in the States, but like this was a rare situation. But one time I had to, the maintenance was repairing a gate, and they had me as an unarmed security guard defend a wide open gate, but there was a state trooper there within the vicinity, a highway patrolman, and he saw what was going on. We are never, ever worried about the police not backing up or being there if we need their help. Most security guards in the States, our job is to observe and report so the police can have an easier job when they get there. So one, the police have absolute proof that the person did that crime if we're able to take pictures and we're able to be eyewitnesses to a crime. And then number two, to be able to hold them off until the police get there, but they'll get there in a matter of minutes. That's not a worry that most security guards in South Africa have. And no offense, that's where I'm blessed with my job. It's far less dangerous to be a security guard in the USA than it is in South Africa.
Yeah, no, there's, but it's something that people need to realize. I mean, the South Africans, I think, appreciate this, but sometimes you lose sight of this too. Christo, you live in Saudi Arabia, so you have an appreciation for this because you've seen the additional cost of doing business. You can't do business in Saudi Arabia the way you do it elsewhere. There's certain things that you have to do differently that adds to your cost and affects your productivity. Not a major issue in Saudi Arabia, but an issue. But in South Africa, one of the reasons why South Africa's economy is less competitive with a lot of other countries is because of the burden of security cost. The cash in transit heist, the danger from carjackings, the danger from assassination and kidnappings, which have been increasing, plus the just home invasions, break-ins, things like that, and then pilfering of products, trucks and lorries being stopped and robbed, that sort of thing. All of that adds to the cost of doing business, and it reduces your productivity. But let me shift from that and say, okay, guys, gals, let me ask you this question. Okay, we'll start with S.J. Wheeler, and then we'll get to Lynn. Okay, so last week or 10 days ago when Cyril Ramaphosa came on, I did a video, hotful, with Ramaphosa, the NCCC, and the ANC. That video did really well. Thanks, everybody. It was almost 30,000 views. I'm almost disappointed. I'm not going to be able to make a video tonight and say I'm hotful because he didn't say anything. I'm not really triggered. Are you guys triggered? I'm not in the least bit triggered tonight. It's almost like a letdown. I'm going to have to come up with a dancing bear routine to get a video that people watch. What about you, SJ Wheeler? Are you triggered by Ramaphosa tonight or no?
And I'll be honest with you, I haven't been triggered in years by the ANC government because it's the same nonsense every single day. It's nothing we're not used to, you know. It's like fighting against the wind. Nothing happens, you know. It stinks a little bit, and then we carry on with life, you know.
When you say that, that reminds me of something. There was this, I think I showed it on here one time. It was a cartoon. This guy does these sports cartoons. He animates things, and he takes announcers' voices. And it was one from the Rugby World Cup where the announcer's saying, "It's more difficult than it appears into the wind." There's a little guy standing there peeing, and the pee is blowing back on him. So you just made me think of that. What's that?
I mean, like, I understand people's frustrations and stuff like that. It's perfectly understandable. I mean, as us South Africans, this is nothing we're not used to. It's just the same old crap that's been running around for the last few days or years or whatever.
Decades. Hey, Lynn, what about you tonight? Just what you expected or what?
Yeah, just it is what it is. It's just bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm being very blunt here.
Well, there goes the family rating.
No, but seriously though, it's just. I mean, why doesn't he just send out a WhatsApp message? I mean, for us to have to sit there and listen to him waffle on and repeat himself as he has for the last 5 times, and only pulling in the fact that corruption is the latest thing on his mind. I mean, it's absolute rubbish. I mean, corruption's been going on since the beginning of apartheid. I mean, the NP, the National Party taught the ANC to do what they are doing now. Sorry, that's what I believe. It's just a perpetual thing with him at the moment. And the company that I was thinking of, it's called SA Can. It's a group of people who come together with a farm attack. They have helicopters, dogs, and it costs, I think it might be 60 Rand a month for anybody to join. So if you break down, they'll help you. If you get attacked, they'll help you. If you have a home invasion, they'll help you. And what they do is they bring in all the security companies, for example, like in Howick, all the security companies in Howick are on board, and they actually help. The police, the dog unit, the horse unit, they all work together. And they've actually phased it in for the whole of South Africa. So if you cannot afford a security company, but you want some kind of backup and something to fall back on, I suggest you guys look up SA Can.
Okay, there you go. There's a little helpful advice. I think the interesting thing about South Africa is that South Africans, it's like the rest of Africa. Listen, I've lived all over the continent, and Africa always finds a way. No matter how broken something is, no matter how much corruption, no matter how many things get in your way, people find a way to make things happen. Maybe not very productive, but they get things done. And South Africans, it seems, have to fend for themselves, whether it's security or it's utilities, buying solar panels. It really is an adaptation that South Africans are into. Christo, what do you say about? Oh no, SJ Wheeler's going to go ahead. You go ahead first, SJ. Then we'll get Christo.
Talking about solar panels, so I'm involved in drilling boreholes and getting people off the grid with water wires, anything to do with water. I'm a plumber by trade, etc., etc. In the Western Cape, it's nigh impossible to do it because of the DA regulations.
Ooh. DA, okay. We usually say ANC, but now we're hearing DA. Go ahead.
if you're outside DA country, you can do it. If you're in DA country, trying to do the whole get your house off the grid with electricity and water, you're going to run into problems and problems and problems and problems, and it's just not going to happen at the end of the day.
That's interesting to know. Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
You understand why I really dislike the DA for so many reasons.
Yeah, no, it's starting to become clear. I've been following in the chat. I've got that impression, but I get now. Okay, Christo, back to you.
Okay, I'll be quick and then I'm going to go.
Okay.
Just in terms of something that you mentioned, and with regards to the cost of doing business, especially in South Africa. I actually have a daughter that started a business 3 years ago, and obviously it was starting to go quite well. IT related business. That's just in my blood. So my son's doing IT in Saudi as well. So I've always been in IT. So she started this business, and when the lockdown actually started, with the e-commerce ban, which was totally irrational. So all these additional things. We originally had a shop in Germiston, so that's a suburb in the East Rand. So if you look at the cost of doing business with a physical premises, we actually had to pay additional security guards to actually look after the premises while we're not there, get called out at night. So your insurance costs, just to insure your business against theft, was actually becoming so expensive that we eventually sold the business and then went totally online. So no physical presence. Now you'll see all the businesses that were affected by this lockdown are these businesses that's got physical premises where they pay rent, they pay all these additional fees, which is becoming extremely, extremely expensive. And with no income, those businesses will close down. So in relation to what it costs, from my perspective, it's not even worth it to own a business in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, people are innovative. South Africans are innovative, but I think something that like S.J. Wheeler said, he's from a small area, so sort of like rural areas, where they are trying to do business, and the regulations are actually, whether it's DA or ANC. I can tell you, S.J. Wheeler, I actually installed solar panels on my home. I went off grid in Johannesburg, which is ANC controlled, but I broke the law by doing that. So it's not unique to DA. Not that I'm defending DA.
Look, the DA just enforces it quicker, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree with you. So they're more awake than Joburg. So I was lucky in that sense. So I'm not affected by power outages, because that was another cost to the business we had in South Africa, the actual physical premise. I actually had to install generators inside the business. Now that brings security or health risks, security risk, because people will actually come and steal your generator within your premise.
But on top of that, they want to tax the generators now as well.
Yes, so it becomes prohibitively expensive to actually run a business. Now the bigger picture is, what effect does this have on the economy of South Africa, and the knock-on effects after this lockdown on smaller businesses, on physical businesses. I think we in for a much larger problem in terms of crime that's coming our way in South Africa. But I'm sort of I sound normally quite negative, but this is just my view in looking at what's happening from an economic perspective. I was going to invest in properties for retirement in South Africa about 4 or 5 years ago, and I decided not to do that, and I'm so glad I didn't do that. I will probably sell my property in South Africa by next year, and then I'm done with South Africa in total. So it sounds like I'm sort of running away, but honestly, I don't see much hope for South Africa.
Well, Ramaphosa, I was going to say, my opinion is Ramaphosa is going to say the same thing. He's going to want to prolong this lockdown as long as he can. There are some people like India's Prime Minister Modi, who I think is doing the lockdown because he believes in what he believes in, and that's what he's doing to try to keep the country safe. But Ramaphosa wants power. He already has money. Most people in the ANC want money and power, and they're going to do everything they can to try to keep hold of their power, and they're going to suspend about everything constitutional. and everything legal to try to hang on to their power, because I think they're scared they're going to lose this next election. But go ahead.
Yeah.
So just to close off, sorry, Chris. Brett mentioned that earlier in the discussion around COVID, and it is serious. I can attest to that. I had COVID-1, which was swine flu I was actually in Mozambique at the time that I actually contracted it in 2009. So I almost died because we were in a rainy season and I couldn't get out of Ponta de Ora. I was on holiday, and I literally thought I was going to die. So there was I couldn't get to any pharmacies. So luckily my immune system, I'm a type 1 diabetic for 33 years. So I've got comorbidities. I'm not taking this sort of lightly, but people have to be realistic in terms of what the risks are really related to COVID. So I know I've been through it. I recovered, luckily. It took me 3 months to be able to actually stop coughing after that, but I recovered and I'm healthy. So all I don't want the guys to do is to sort of overreact and be irrational about what is around COVID. But that's it. I'm going to say good night.
Christo, did I hear you correctly? You had COVID? Is that correct?
Yes, but in 2009, so COVID-1, so the
earlier version. Okay.
Yes.
Hey, Christo, before you go.
Yes.
I have no issues with people trying to get out of South Africa. I'm trying to get. Well, my mom's already left because she's an Irish citizen. I'm trying to get my brother and my dad out as well before the shit hits the fan. Anyone who can get in South Africa, I say, like, do it.
Yes. Look, this is Chris. You wanted somebody to say they're gatvol. Yeah. I'm gatvol.
Gatvol. Gatvol.
Now we get a whole chorus of gatvol. So, Chris.
Now, if y'all have the means and resources, I would advise you guys to leave, just because it's going to take a lot of years to undo all the damage the ANC's done. So.
Yeah, but some of us can't leave. We're stuck here.
Yeah,
and
we
some people have been there for 4 centuries. You know, they're kin. So, you know, it's kind of hard to give up on a place you've been.
Well,
people have been here for 300 years.
I actually got caught in a funny loophole about this.
Yeah.
1 generation too late for my Irish citizenship.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, but my folks have been here on these shores for 400 years, 1621 to 2021. I'm not going anywhere. I got to pry that that weapon from my cold, dead hands. You know, this is my country. But obviously, it's easier to say than those are in South Africa. So I really feel badly for folks in South Africa. But Christo,
well, look, Chris.
What, guys, SJ?
If you guys ever need like a buffer force in Guam and that, I'll sign up. Take you guys from the Chinese.
We actually do need a buffer force. Anytime that Justin Trudeau opens his mouth, we need someone to make sure that no one can hear the transmission. That's the buffer we need. Our neighbors
sign me there, man.
Our neighbors to the north have been afflicted with a disease, and it's called Trudeauism, which is returned from the 70s to tinkle in their drinking water, and it tastes horrible. Listen, but Christo, SJ keeps jumping in. Christo, what I want to say is very quickly before you take off is that I'm glad we're doing this virtually, man. I don't want your COVID symptoms. Stay away from me. Come on. This is called stigma, ladies and gentlemen. Christo, stigma.
Yeah. Look, you know, in Saudi, we've actually just so the people that doesn't know how Saudi's sort of been affected by COVID, sort of just to give you the idea, they went into lockdown about 2 weeks after South Africa, and they basically moved out of the total lockdown so people can travel between provinces. They don't have the nighttime lockdown. So about 2-3 weeks ago, they stopped the sort of limiting people from going into malls and restaurants. So restaurants opened about 3 weeks ago. We're going into Eid holidays next week. So basically what they are saying is after the Eid holidays, they will start opening up maybe travel, but hopefully then my wife can come and actually join me in Saudi. But apart from that, in terms of what's been happening is, if you look at businesses in Saudi, there's also, people think it's only unique to South Africa. So let's say, for instance, making decisions, governments making decisions. That's across the world. And even here, we told by the Ministry of Health, which controls the health system in Saudi, that they will do this lockdown. Nobody's allowed to go to work. So everybody works from home. Those that cannot work from home will be basically staying at home, and they will get paid, obviously, but they will stay at home until it's safe to go back to home. So they lifted that about 3 weeks ago and reinstituted it about a week ago. So I've been going to work, working from home, going to work, working from home. In the meantime, we've got thousands of projects that's actually being delayed because of this. In terms of people, thousands of people that's being impacted in terms of having to fly or having to go to sites to do certain things. It is, I think, even from a Saudi perspective, which is a relatively rich country, it's going to hit them very hard in the next 3 to 4 months. And I think South Africa's nowhere in the same position. So this is why I'm saying I can only see doom and gloom for South Africa. But I'm going to close off with that. Hopefully I haven't spread any viruses to you, Chris.
Nice meeting you, Chris, though.
That's fine.
Nice meeting all of you. And
and I got to head out.
Cheers, Chris,
Talk
too.
to you guys later. Y'all take care. Nice talking to y'all.
Cool.
Y'all take care.
Cheers, Krista. Cheers, Brett.
Cheers.
Take care.
So everybody's dropping out. Am I by myself now, or who's still there? Just Lynn and I? Let me get back. Oh, okay. No, we still got Yanni and SJ Wheeler. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Krista. Really appreciate you tuning in there. I didn't get a chance to ask him if he is seeing a lot of goats and sheep in the neighborhoods. When I lived in Tunisia, of course, when it was time for the Eid, you start seeing sheep and goats on every corner all over town because they're brought to town because people all slaughter one for the celebration. So anyway. All right. So
Okay, well,
go ahead, Lynn.
I'm going to leave you too, Chris.
Okay.
But thanks for the chat.
No, thank you.
I
Again,
hope I've
appreciate you calling in.
contributed in some way.
You absolutely did. Is there somebody trying to get it? No. Okay. I still got a phantom SJ Wheeler. You've got it, but don't worry about that. Okay. No, thanks a lot, Lynn.
I
Appreciate
know,
it.
I'm here.
No, but there's another ender for you. It's like you're trying to call in twice. It keeps telling me I have another participant, so I just checking.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I don't know.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right, Lynn. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you
Lynn.
calling in. Cool beans.
Pleasure. Okay, bye.
Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
All right, guys. The three of us left here real quick. So no surprises. Nothing we weren't expecting. The only news was the education, shutting down the schools for a month, except for grade 12 and except for grade 7, which had a 1 week and 2 week break. But other than that, there really wasn't any news there, huh?
Or give it another 2 weeks. We'll have another one of these nation dresses, and it's going to be a whole huge another nothing burger with some extra regulations thrown on top. Salsa.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Absolutely. Yanni?
Chris, I agree. I mean, to be honest, I'm heartful, but I'm not heartful as much as last week or 2 weeks ago speech. So I'm relieved, actually, because I thought worse. I expected worse. I thought we were going to get moved, like some metros were going to get moved to level 4. And with that, obviously, the implications that may come from that, certain businesses would be closing, et cetera, et cetera. So that was probably my biggest fear. And then second to that, we are moving house soon. And, that would also complicate things for us if that had to happen, because you can imagine what it must be like moving house. But I mean, wouldn't want to have to deal with that through a harder or a harsher level of lockdown, or so it's thinking about myself in that case. But I mean, so I'm relieved. I think I was expecting worse. I wasn't expecting alcohol and cigarettes to come back, but I was expecting worse.
I think that's a fair estimation. I was, I don't want to say relieved because it's not affecting me directly, but I'm relieved for South Africans. But I was kind of expecting here, like, this area, like Eastern Cape, is going to be locked down further because the situation's gotten bad, and it didn't happen. So that was kind of a surprise. But the schools are not a surprise at all. Expected that to happen. So yeah, just kind kind of, like I said, I was, a couple weeks ago, I was angry about it because it's just utter nonsense. Well, I think what angered me most, Yanni, a couple weeks ago was that Ramaphosa blamed South Africans for the ANC's failure as if it was their fault. The ANC told South Africans to stay home. And they did it to people living in townships that don't have piped water and don't have access to facilities and don't have income that they can sit back and, order things online or have things delivered to them. So it was impossible. They never made an effort to deliver sanitizer and water and cleaning supplies and masks to people in townships. And they just blamed South Africans. And I think that's where I was upset a couple weeks ago. And at least tonight he didn't play that stupid game. Tonight he focused on corruption as if there's any credibility from the ANC they're going to pursue corruption.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Chris, I'm wondering how much of the real news is just hidden in the media, because certainly the first couple of weeks through lockdown, you could see the content that was surfacing through YouTube in terms of news media, Facebook, semi-fake media, whatever you want to call that, is subsided a lot. You don't see a lot of that harsh media anymore, like, the police is doing this or this brutality or that type of stuff. So I'm scared that a lot of stuff is now hidden by the media, so we don't really see the true story, because you hear a lot of people saying about, like, for instance, hospitals that's over populated or over too much patients or whatever in the hospital. But then I have a colleague that is that fell ill and bladder infection or something, which is a real serious thing. Yeah. He's like man down. I mean, he was really man down, and the hospital refused to. Under normal circumstances, he would have had to stay over in hospital, right? So the hospital refused to have him stay over because, one, he's near his 60s or in his 60s, so he's possibly at risk in the hospital. But at the same time, they were saying they were keeping certain levels of availability. So, I mean, now all of a sudden it's like, so we are keeping the private hospitals or whatever open in case we get COVID-19, yet there's somebody that has a real other issue that, I'm not saying he might pass away from it or whatever, but I mean, it might be serious. It might be diabetes or whatever, somebody else, they're feeling ill, they're not going to the doctor now, the doctors might not want to, I don't know what the right word for it is. Opneem is the Afrikaans word. But when you get taken up into hospital, I don't know what admitted. That's the right word. Admitted.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's
scary though. So I mean, now you're wondering, like, what is it really like? What is surely, and I'm sure the public hospitals are worse off. We know that they don't get the same funding as private hospitals and whatever. So I'm sure that situation there is a lot more dire. I would not want to have to go there. And you saw the news stuff that got circulated. I think it was in your WhatsApp group or something around one of the hospitals that focused that was on the BBC News. So that kind of like scares me. And I'm not hearing the president talking about how that is being addressed, because that's what I thought level 5 hard lockdown was for. I thought that was when they were focusing on readying ourselves, because we knew this wave is coming. There's no way stopping that. We could limit it with limiting movement of people and whatever. But the moment we were opening up that economy in whichever way or fashion, we should have known that the numbers are picking up. I mean, go and look. We lagged other countries by a couple of weeks, or months, but by a couple of weeks.
By 3 weeks, yeah, about 3 weeks.
So you would have known this now. So why didn't we focus on doing that better? I don't know.
No, I agree. And I think the other piece of this that was really troubling is that blaming lifting the lockdown. The same thing's happening here in the States. These people saying, as if they're actually reacting to pressure from the constituents to lift the lockdown. The governor of Pennsylvania did not react to, he didn't react to pressure. He just ignored it. But in other states, they claim now, because they've got riots, they don't attribute the people marching in the streets and tearing buildings down and burning places and looting. That's not the cause. I find it actually hilarious. I'm not a beach person. I don't care for the beach. I was always skinny. I didn't like going to the beach because I burned, because I'm very light and ginger when I was a kid. But they're blaming people who go to the beach for spiking the cases. Well, I mean, the last time I went to the beach, I wasn't within 20 or 30 feet of anybody. And unless it gets transmitted in the water, where am I going to get it from? Because I didn't get close to anybody. Even when I'm standing in the queue to shower off when you come out of the water, I'm not near anybody. So people on the beach don't kind of hang close together. Whereas people walking through the street carrying bricks and attacking police and burning buildings are shoulder to shoulder with no mask, but that has no impact. It's just disingenuous. That's the whole thing.
Doesn't UV lights disinfect a COVID exposed surface?
I've seen
Like if you, let's say you touched a handrail or something,
No,
would that not be?
I've seen multiple reporting. I can tell you that UV light does destroy RNA for many viruses. It just depends on the exposure and how it's done. I don't know the case because it's been so misreported. I've seen one study that says this, another one says that, and I don't know who to believe. I suspect that UV lighting would damage the RNA so that COVID-19 is rendered, inert. That would be my suspicion, but I don't.
Which means the sun would be one of those methods.
Exactly.
The key thing to UV lights is the UV light bulb has to be working correctly. Pretty much.
Yeah,
So
but what I'm meaning, SJ, is sun. I'm thinking about sun. So people going to the beach, they are far from each other,
Right.
like socially distant. They're touching. Well, I'm not meaning the sand surfaces, but you're surely touching a surface somewhere. So that touch, even if you sneeze on this beach sand, worst case scenario now, surely the sun will destroy that in a couple of hours or something, or I don't know.
More than likely.
Yeah, exactly.
More than likely.
Exactly.
I mean, we are in the winter, but I mean, still, sun is sun, UV is UV.
Well, exactly.
You
burn in the wintertime too.
I'm not like a scientist or doctor or anything like that, and I don't claim to know anything about.
But you do play one on late night television.
But like, let's take Africa example. Like Chris, you'll know about the stuff. But when there's the Ebola outbreaks, they come and they go, and there's like a 2-week span of absolute chaos and that, then it kills itself out, right?
Yeah, normally it burns out. And the reason it normally burned out is because the primary where the location was. It's usually somewhere in the Congo or the western part of Uganda where there are clusters of people, but also remote villages where people don't have a lot of contact. So and the other reason it burns out is that with Ebola, now before the West Africa version, which was different, that strain was very different in that people walked around asymptomatic for several days, whereas in the past, after about 7 or 8 days, people started bleeding out of their eyes and their ears, their nose. And when you walk into a village and people are standing there bleeding, it's like, screw this, exit, stage right, I'm out of here. So, but this later version that happened in West Africa, people were staying asymptomatic longer and like HIV spreading it, not knowing it. And that's what made it such a problem. But normally what happens, it's in a remote village somewhere in the Congo. And these people don't have a lot of contact except every few weeks. And by then it's burned out. There's no other host for it to latch onto. And also those versions in the Congo have such a high lethality rate. We've seen Ebola with 40, 50, 70, 90% fatality rates. It's astounding how brutal it is. So the West African one was kind of a surprise in that the fatality rate was much lower. It was closer to 30% and lower in some cases. And also it didn't give manifestations. You didn't see it for a long time. So that kind of scared people. And
also less contagious though, wasn't it?
It's super contagious.
No, it was still contagious, but there's also a couple other things about it. Okay, this ought to scare people too when it comes to Ebola. Okay. Historically, now, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I do work with epidemiology, and I've worked in medical programs a lot over the years and ran a bunch of them. And I've followed Ebola for decades now. But the thing about Ebola in the past is that we weren't aware of it ever being transmitted through sexual contact. And we also weren't aware of people getting Ebola again. Usually they had lifelong immunity as far as we knew. But what happened now is two things have come up that ought to scare people. The first was that a person that was in Liberia went back to the States in Texas and wasn't sick and didn't have any symptoms of it, and then later passed it through intercourse to his partner. That's how they determined they got it. So that's scary. And then the other thing that's scary is that there was a nurse in Scotland who returned from Guinea, and she had COVID, or not COVID, she had Ebola when she came back, and she was back in Scotland for a year. She recovered. A year later, she got Ebola. She never went back to Africa, wasn't exposed to anybody that had it. So she just got it again. That is scary because how did she get it? Was it lurking in her, in her immune system somewhere? What was going on there? Before I go any further, guys, let me do a quick, Christo just gave a super chat and he said, thank you for the stream. It was nice to chat face-to-face virtually. It was brilliant, Christo. Thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate it. Your mic was good quality, so thanks for that. Really appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Sorry it's not on the screen. I just got a full screen now, but thank you so much for that super chat. I really do appreciate it. Guys, real quickly, let me just do two more things. Adam in here. Bronwyn Mason said early development centers like preschools are not included in the ban, nor private schools, and she's got question marks. I haven't heard any mention of those. But again, that probably comes down to gatherings and how many people can be gathered. If you've got a preschool that has, more than 50 kids, you're probably in trouble unless they've got some mechanism. So I didn't hear him talk about it, and I don't know the status of it. And then finally here, before I get back to the gentleman in the convo, Bradley Cook said, I can't believe that was the speech the president gave on the eve of 4 months of lockdown. Well, Bradley, I'm with you. I actually kind of was wondering why he's having a speech, because I didn't think they're going to really do any real changes except for the schools. And he could have done it through a press release or had Angie come out there. She can at least string together 2 sentences to tell us the schools are closed. The Minister of Education, so I'm talking about. But I expected something out of this. Ladies and gentlemen, my 58 million South Africans. It's important to talk to you on this date, 4 months. It's a momentous date, and this is what's happened the last 4 months. This is where we're at. We have concerns. This is where we're going. Yada yada yada. Now, Bradley, I was completely disappointed too, and from that standpoint, but I guess relieved in some respects that it at least wasn't announced publicly that yet more freedoms would be taken from South Africans. What about you guys?
Well, no freedom to take, not more freedom to be taken away from South Africans as of yet. That's still to come. We'll get there.
Yep. Goat said Ebola's an STD. Goat, there was a reported case in Texas. They claim that that's how it was transmitted. We have no other evidence of it. Never heard of another case of it. But if in fact that is true, that's pretty scary that it could be transmitted that way, because we've never known it to be transmitted in that fashion. So, yeah, anyway, there you go.
I know we had one Ebola case in Gauteng a long time ago.
Yeah. No, this is
That
a
goes
question.
quick.
This is a question of it being transmitted through sexual contact. That was Goat was asking a fair question, and I'm not claiming it's done that way. I'm just telling you there was a case reported by the Centers for Disease Control in Texas. So somebody came back from Liberia whose only mechanism they found was sexual intercourse. And so anyway, but maybe he was swapping spit during the sexual intercourse, and that's how it happened. That'd be my suspicion. But that's how it was reported. But the one in Scotland.
Well, you didn't really do that when you're being naughty, I suppose.
Well, maybe we've got too much information on this stream now.
Well, you wouldn't want to disclose that if you've traveled and you were naughty on your travels. So yeah, that's the last position
true.
you want to be in.
Well, that's a good argument for behaving yourself when you're traveling, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, unless you die, then you probably don't have to care about what people think. If you worry about that at all. But if you don't want to be, pie in your face, then I suppose you need to behave.
In all fairness, a lot of people that do go to Africa on holidays and stuff do tend to get a little bit promiscuous here.
Yeah, I can't vouch for that, or I can't comment on that. I mean, each to his own. To each his
just
own.
look at the English people that on where's it somewhere there near Senegal in that area. Lots of weird things going on there with those tourisms. There's a couple of guys that are even looking into it because it's got to do involved with the whole kitty thing.
Okay. Well, now we're really getting off topic a little bit. Oh wait, what's this? Okay. Anyway, so guys, let's get some last thoughts in. We'll go ahead and wrap up here shortly. SJ Wheeler, anything to add? This is the first time calling in. Thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate you being part of the conversation.
Just like Chris, thanks. Appreciate what you're doing, man. You're one of the very few true voices on YouTube, and I appreciate what you're doing. It's much respect to you, man.
Well, thanks a lot, SJ Wheeler. I appreciate it. I'm really trying. I'm trying to have a conversation, discourse, and listen to what people got to say and share my thoughts and experiences. When I started watching YouTube, I know some people just get on YouTube, and I'm not talking about South Africa YouTubers. I'm just saying YouTube. Especially here in the States. And, it's like, oh, look at me, look what I'm doing. I'm doing my hair today. It was like Instagram on camera is what it was. And so I didn't find much use to it. But then I stumbled across a couple sites where people were actually adding some value. And they were commenting and talking about things and adding their, and I watched Louder with Crowder a long time ago, but I didn't really get into it, although I found it interesting. And that was kind of the approach. So then I kind of found usefulness of it. So as I mentioned, for this channel, it wasn't supposed to be what it is now, but things change. And so I'm actually enjoying it, and I'm glad that you guys have subscribed and you're here, and I hope you enjoy it, and I really do appreciate your contribution. So thanks a lot for calling.
As soon as I can financially do it, I will become a member. But I've literally hit rock bottom, like work-wise.
No,
But we'll get there.
No, SJ Wheeler, it's perfectly fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, again, so I want to make that clear. You guys are on here, and I think that people know that. I say it. It's not. I'm not just saying it. Yanni knows me. He knows I'm telling the truth about this. The membership wasn't about making money. It was about a community sort of thing. It's just kind of commitment sort of thing, and that's why the membership is set so low. But you don't have to do that. There's no need for it. I know everybody's got different circumstances. I remember when I was a young person, just out of high school, I couldn't rub two nickels together. And so even $1.99 would have been a lot for me back then. But yeah, so no, I appreciate the sentiment. If you're able to do it sometime, that's great. If you can't, just stay subscribed to the channel, keep watching the content, and keep contributing. That really helps.
It's not just you. It's like Morning Shot. I want to do it for BDL. You know, the whole clan, as I call them. Joe, I'll be honest. Things couldn't have gone worse at the wrong time, if that makes sense. But it is what it is, and I will become a member sooner or later as I'm back on my feet.
No, it makes all the sense in the world. This stuff can never come at a good time, but I'm sure probably some other things were happening in your life that probably was like the perfect storm of all the crap at once, which is not helpful. So, yeah, actually for me, I kind of caught a break because my end of my active service was just a few months before this nonsense started. And if I'd still been on active service and trying to get out, now process and do with the VA and all this, that would have been a disaster. I took care of all that. Literally, I did my last VA physical that they sent me down to get, make sure I wasn't crazy. I had to see a shrink for PTSD and a bunch of other stuff. I went to see a shrink, and the lockdown started 2 days later. And so I mean, the timing was perfect for me, so far as not having extraneous things. But that's not everybody's life. So I appreciate the challenges. Well, thanks a lot for calling in, SJ.
Thank you, man.
All right, Yanni.
It's nice meeting you, Yanni.
Cool. Likewise, SJ. And you're not far from my in-laws. They live around the corner, and we visit Komiki often. There's a farmers market, I think. That's like me and the wife go to. So it's a very nice little town. We've gone there quite
it's
a few
the furthest way I can be away from Cape Town, if that makes sense. And Kom is great, man.
See, for us Joburgers, just being in the Cape Town area is a good thing. But I suppose when you're in Cape Town, you know where the best places are. So,
funny story. Look, I don't like Cape Town. Don't get me wrong. I'm originally from Joburg. I love Joburg. Yes, I know all the crap in that. Joburg has that fierce about it that Cape Town will never have. That makes sense.
Yeah, but Cape Town also has something I enjoy. Like I said, my in-laws lives there. We love going there. And when we go there, we tend to do it for like a week to 2 weeks during the year, and that is medicine for the soul, dude. That's how much I enjoy it going there. But that's
the same way I feel about going back up to Joburg. Yeah, it's good to connect with the old country, if that makes sense.
Okay, well that's good. It's good that Joburg's not that bad, but at least somebody likes coming here.
Joburg's got its crap. It's got its crap, it really does. But like when you're in Joburg, you're surrounded by the valleys and that, you're home, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm a KZN boy. I come from KZN, born.
Used to go to Mbilo a lot.
It's funny to hear Joburg called the old country. That's hilarious.
No, fair enough. But when it's like my old country, because that's where I'm originally from, Pretoria and stuff. The only Irish Scot from Pretoria, more than likely.
Yeah, you're definitely outnumbered if you're an Irishman in Pretoria. That's definitely Afrikaner country there.
I think I'm definitely outnumbered all over South Africa, wherever I am, being half Irish, half Scottish. It's what it is.
Well, it makes you a minority within a minority within a minority within a minority.
No, I'm just becoming a subgenre. It's oh well. It is what it is. But you understand why I support the Bulls,
Yeah, no problem with that. Listen, I mean, as long as people support rugby, that's my thing. If people give me
that's becoming a bit difficult now, to be honest.
Yeah, well, Sia Khaleesi's game is a little bit frustrating, but I think he just.
But listen, Sia Khaleesi didn't need to tempt me to throw away my Springbok jersey. That happened. What was it? The 20 won the World Cup in England when we lost to Japan. I was out.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, no, it's like South Africa and New Zealand are meant to be the greatest rugby sides in the world. Yes, we lose to France occasionally and Australia and England. I can accept that. to lose to anyone else other than that, it's just disgraceful.
Well, just wait till they lose to the Eagles. We'll have to come back and have this conversation again.
Wait, no, I'm probably going to probably become an Eagles supporter now, to be quite honest with you.
One of our best players is Hanko Hemeshuis. He's awesome.
Yeah, man, I'll be supporting you guys when it comes to rugby now, man. You guys are like one of the Polynesian nations, like Samoa or Fiji.
Yeah, we're definitely a rising rugby nation, so it's kind of cool. Hey, by the way, you guys like the idea that I'm bringing ruggers on here and people from the rugby world? Does that interest you guys for a guest?
I think it's brilliant that you're bringing Andre Sneeman from a selfish point of view, because I always wondered what happened to him.
Yeah.
And growing up, this is going around. I was in my early teens. I was a big fan of Andre Sneeman because he played for the Bulls and stuff like that. So I used to be a great supporter of his, and I'd like to know what happened with his life. It would be great. I appreciate it.
Cool beans. Should be interesting. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
So thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I've got more rugby players and people from the rugby world lined up. Some of them are known here in the States, not so well overseas. So folks in South Africa and in Africa get introduced to some of these folks if you don't know who they are already. And I'm hoping to make contact with some more Springboks, former Springboks for sure, and we'll see how it goes.
No, good luck, Chris. You got my support, man.
All right.
Backing you all the way.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully you become president of South Africa one day. I don't know if you feel like doing a coup or something.
I'll vote.
Well, I always said a small African country. That's a big African country. I'm going to need a good team around me. Whereas in Lesotho,
look.
I'll do your IT support.
Oh, there you go. There's my IT team. Christo from Saudi Arabia, Yanni in South Africa.
Look, I can fix your toilets up and stuff like that. So you got the plumber, you got Morning Shot, you got King Germ, you've got Big Daddy Liberty. I mean, the team's here already. Ronaldo, fair enough. I'll leave that up to you.
Expert.
So I guess if SJ Wheeler is on my team, I'll never have to use the English phrase, my car's bung up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You got my backing, man.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right, Yanni, any last thoughts before you head out?
Yeah, Chris, all good. I think thanks for the stream. Thanks for having this stream after and just having this bit of open chat, because I think we were all equally confused because we weren't really sure what the president really said and how it really applies on us. And I think it kind of just gave us a platform just to have it sink in a bit and kind of just reiterate that nothing has changed, So, yeah, I think thank you for that. And it was good having and seeing a couple of new faces on the channel. I really and always enjoy that. I've not been one of your first followers, but we're one of your early followers before you boomed. So it's been fun seeing your channel grow. So really exciting. And just on your point around the different guests that you have on, that's something that I really appreciate about your channel and something that I appreciate about Joe's channel as well. And it's not that it means I don't appreciate it from other channels, because it really just gives me the flexibility to watch the content that I want to watch, because some cases I know where I need to go to for something specific, and in other cases I know where I need to go to for something a bit more broad. And that's what I enjoy from your channel, because it has a lot of things that I've learned from your channel for people that I would never have been exposed to. And during this time where we are so stuck at home, so stuck in certain things, this is, I think, one of the best ways I can spend my time. So I'm enjoying that. But at the same time, you always have that undertone, which is your message within Zaba Africa and what, and what that means. So I'm really enjoying that. So thank you very much for that.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks a lot. Good.
Chris, I mean, it's coming from an honest place. So I think that's like the most thing I appreciate above all,
Well, no, it's my pleasure, guys. You're most welcome. And as I said from the outset, when I had conversation about South Africa, I think Yanni, you were there when I called in the first time in Ronaldo's program a few months back. I think you were, but I don't know who all in the audience heard me on that. When I called in, he was doing a similar.
Definitely not me.
Yeah, he had a call in, and I called in, and he was taking like 4 minutes of calls, and then there was no one in the queue, so I called in. And we talked for like 20 minutes the last, in his hour. And he's like, I got to get you back on here. And I think that honestly, this is what I think because people have told me this, but the reason people enjoyed that and they wanted me to come back on his channel is because it was a different perspective. It's not a South African perspective. I don't want to say burdened, but I'm not weighed down by being a South African in Southwest history where somebody can say you this, you that. I'm not. I don't have a dog in that fight. So I can be objective. I don't have to be objective, but I can be objective. And I think that outside view. Plus, I mean, it's not like I just turned the television on and read about South Africa and now I'm pontificating about it. Actually, kind of know it, have been there, done it, sort of thing, and lived all over Africa. So I think that's why a lot of people like it, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the discussion.
Well, take it from a YouTube junkie, if you want to put it that way, for the last few years. Your channel is the only American channel that is 100% legit on has anything to do with any of the phase what's happening in South Africa.
Well, thanks a lot. By the way, it's not a YouTube junkie. I have a term for that. I coined it earlier and I shared it with Yanni. You guys are stream surfers. You're stream surfers, man.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. There you go.
I
Here we go.
saved it.
Cowabunga.
I
Stream
saved
surfers.
it.
Hashtag stream surfer. We're all stream surfers now. I do the same thing now too. All right, guys. Can I get you to drop off and then I'll just do some wrap-up comments. Thank you so much for participating.
Thanks a lot,
guys.
Chris. Thanks, Yanni.
Ciao, bye.
All right. Okay. As the guys drop off there, okay, it's almost just me now. Let me get back to that so I fill up the whole screen because where are we at? Come on. Just move to the waiting room. Okay, there you go. Now it's just me, folks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. This was a straight voltage. What did Cyril say? Talking about what Cyril Ramaphosa had to say about his comments on the COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa, the lockdown now that we're approaching 4 months here since the lockdown began, and where South Africa's at. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank Christo for the super chat. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Also for calling in. It was a pleasure to have you on there. Lynn, as always, great to have you in there. Brett, thank you for calling in as well. It was great to have you in the conversation. Did I forget anybody? SJ Wheeler. If I forgot anybody who called in, I'm drawing a blank here, senior moment. But thank you to everybody who called in. Thank you guys for the chat. Goat, just for you real quick, you got a timeout because you made unfounded claim and you're just throwing things like KKK around. Please don't do that. I mean, if you don't like something, you want to call people names, that's fine. Organization's fine. But yeah, by the same token, you asked a question about the economic freedom fighters. No, people can't just come on here and say the economic freedom fighters are murdering people in the streets and this, that, and the other if it's not true. You need to back it up. You can call them names and say they're communists and socialists. That's a label. But obviously things that are related to inappropriate comments. Anyway, that's why you got a timeout. I hope you didn't take offense, Goten, but you were distracting in the chat. And anyway, so that's what that was all about. But I made sure you weren't booted out. You got to stay and you got to come back. And I saw you contribute again. So thank you for doing that. And to anyone else gets booted, I think someone else mentioned they got booted because they were saying things about AfriForum that were unfounded in a positive light, and so got pushed to the side on a previous chat. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Let me see. Let me do some roundup real quick. We got a super chat, so I already mentioned that to thank Christo, but let me see if we got any new members or subscribers. It's been a slower day today. Let's see. We are at 5,782 subscribers to the channel. Thank you guys for joining. That's up today by about 60 or 70 subscribers. That's good to know. And then as far as memberships, I don't think anyone new has joined the channel during the stream. Let me just double check and make sure. No, we're still at 80. Devilish, Shirley, and Vihan are the most recent members. But on the super chat side for this stream, we did get a super chat from Christo. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. 350 Rand was awesome. And it was great to see you face-to-face, even though it's a virtual face-to-face. So I do appreciate that. And then just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow here on Chris Wine Africa, listen, please, I don't beg for people to come watch, but you won't be disappointed. Assuming the technology doesn't let us down, but you won't be disappointed, guys. Tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. in Gaborone and in Johannesburg, Sarah Alice Saul, who is a longtime rugby professional. There it is. Yanni was waiting for that. He was waiting for me to announce that. She'll be on the program for a special feature. We'll be talking about her career in rugby, what she does. She's dynamic. She's fascinating. Very intelligent person. She knows all about rugby, and she knows everybody who's anybody in rugby. So we might talk about the Blitz Box on the conversation tomorrow. We'll definitely be talking about the Eagles, the men and women's. We'll be talking about her adventures traveling around the world with the men's team for 2011, 2015 Rugby World Cups. And ironically, she and I are like ships in the night. We passed each other at some of these games without me even knowing who she was or her knowing who I am. But anyway, Sarah's on tomorrow. Special feature. Please tune in for that. Should be a very enjoyable stream if you can make it. If you can't make it, then just tune into it afterwards. Should be something really enjoyable. And as a reminder, if you're curious, I apologize for the bad audio. It was in a Zoom session, but a week ago on Tuesday, so a little over a week ago, I had Talon Stanford on the channel, who's a South African American who wound up playing for the USA Sevens from 2007 to 2009. He's a commentator on World Rugby. He does the HSBC 7 series. He also did World Rugby, the Major League Rugby competition here in the U.S. And he was at the Rugby World Cup where he was paired up with Joel Stransky. That was his broadcast partner for the Rugby World Cup. And the three of us linked up in Japan when I was there. Awesome guy, really great, full of energy, Talon. My voice is kind of screwed up on the stream, so I apologize for that. But once I realized it was having a problem, I kind of tried not to speak often and let Talon talk, and he was brilliant. So tune in, lots of great war stories about the rugby life and about growing up in South Africa and being in America and all that. So check that out. And I don't have a guest set up for Saturday. I'm still waiting for a response from someone that indicated they would come on. So if I don't get a guest on Saturday for the regular call-in or the regular show on Saturday, which is now at noon also, I don't do 11 o'clock anymore, but noon, the Saturday show, then I'll probably do a call-in stream. Anyway, all right, folks, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate everybody. Karen, I see you're still there. Good to see you. Sharon, I think Sharon, I missed that earlier. You said something like the whole thing just left you cold. I think it was Sharon that said that. Ramboposa. Just call it an Easter egg. You were in the toilet. That's good, Gareth. Centurion isn't bad. Come on, but it's actually in Pretoria. If you want to go see hell, go to Hillbrow. Yeah, I've been to Hillbrow, Goat. Not a nice part of town. Probably a place I shouldn't have been, but I've been to Hillbrow. It's a tough part of town. That's absolutely true. Centurion's not bad, but that's not really Pretoria. You're many kilometers from Pretoria, but yeah. Anyway, but I've been to Centurion many times. Anyway, all right, folks. Paulie's got to get to bed so he can put out those fires tomorrow. Those actual fires, not those mystical or literary fires. He is a firefighter, so have a good night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for tuning in. We're going to close out now, and I will see you guys tomorrow on Stray Voltage. And if any interesting things come up or anything comes to my mind, I'll prepare another video. But thanks a lot for checking out my video on Sia Khaleesi. Let me just take a quick look at that and see how that's doing. That's always curious. So I want to see how that video is doing before we head out for the evening and just give you an update on that one. It's done quite well. So at present, the Sia Khaleesi video is now at 11,000 viewers. Thank you all so much for that. That's awesome. Really heartwarming. Appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. And I didn't cut up my jersey, so there's a little sneak in case you haven't seen it. So, all right, folks, have a good night. God bless. We'll see you here next time on Indaba Africa, the Chris White Africa channel. And where are we at? Come on. Okay, I got to rearrange stuff here real quick. There we go. Okay, have a good night, folks. God bless.